Hi, hello, my name is Ivy and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I do videos about nursing school, about mental health, and about my life. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my mental health journey in 2018 and what that looked like for me. So if you'd like to know how that went, just keep on watching. Okay, so we have our chamomile tea here. We're going to enter this video with an open mind and a light heart. I just want to throw out a quick little disclaimer that in this video, I'm going to be talking about some very serious topics. Topics that I'm very passionate about and topics that I have personally been through. If you are triggered in any way by self-harm, about mental illnesses in general, or about possibly, suicide ideation, then this video is not for you. Or maybe it could be very helpful for you. I just want to put that disclaimer out there that I will be talking about those topics, and if you are easily triggered by those topics, just be aware. Get help if you need it. There's so many resources out there, which I will also be talking about and linking in the description below as well. So I just wanted to put that quick little disclaimer. I'm going to be very serious in this video. I'm going to be telling you my story and every detail that goes into that story. I'm going to be very open and honest with you guys. I'm going to try not to leave anything out. I'm very forgetful sometimes, so that may happen. Okay, now that disclaimer is out of the way, let's get to the video. Okay, so like I said, I'm drinking some chamomile tea to try and calm my nerves. This is obviously a very emotional topic, emotional conversation. So, in order to talk about my mental health journey that happened in 2018, I have to talk about my mental health before 2018 and before I decided to get help. So, I was always an anxious child, I would say. I was very emotional, still am. It's just kind of been one of my traits. I first fully realized that I was depressed and anxious in 7th grade, and that is also when I started to self-harm. So, I know, talking about self-harm, scary. Talking about self-harm is not something that everybody wants to do. So we're gonna do that today. For me, self-harm was cutting, or punching myself, or self-sabotage in the way of maybe starving myself. I wouldn't necessarily classify myself as having an eating disorder. I mean, I guess that could possibly be classified as an eating disorder. Anyway, it was more self-sabotage kind of things. My anxiety would tell me things like, your friends don't actually love you, don't go out and hang out with that person, they don't actually care about you. And we'll get more into my anxiety later in the video, but in 7th grade, my depression was really prominent. And with my depression came more anxiety, and came more self-harm, and also came more suicidal ideation. So, another topic that's really hard to discuss and that nobody wants to discuss. So, let's dive into that. So for me personally, my self-harm and suicidal ideation were not linked at all. They were parallel to each other. They sometimes came hand in hand, but they never crossed, if that makes sense. My self-harm was always linked to wanting to feel something other than my emotional pain. I was feeling so much emotional pain at the time that I wanted to feel physical pain to mask the emotional pain, if that makes sense. My self-harm was also very impulsive. So I would get a panic attack, I would want to feel something other than that, and then I would cut myself, if that makes sense. I just want to put a little note. I've never actually talked about my self-harm out loud to anybody other than my significant other and my siblings, and my closest friends. I just want to throw that out there. Cool. Very anxious. Okay, back. So as I was saying, my self-harm and my suicidal ideation was never crossed. So I was never hurting myself to kill myself, if that makes sense. Yeah. When I wanted to kill myself, I never had a plan necessarily. I thought about ways I could, but I never was like, this is how I'm gonna do it. This is what I want to do. If that makes sense. So it was always, in the behavioral health field, we call that like passive suicidality. Cool. So that being said, that was happening from 7th grade pretty much up until last year when I got help. Granted, it wasn't as severe leading up to me getting help, if that makes sense. Like, it was definitely the most severe it was ever in high school and junior high, and after high school. So like the year after high school, so like 2017. So 2017, after I graduated from, I graduated high school in 2016. In 2017 is when I was going to the community college, and I took 5 classes straight out of high school, because I thought, hey, I was just doing fine with 8 whatever classes in high school. I can totally do 5 straight out of high school. That sounds great. I was wrong. Basically, I struggled so hard and became very depressed, only passed one of my classes, wasted a ton of money, wasted a ton of time. I was working as a CNA, and that's such a hard job, and it was so hard. And I was very depressed, very anxious, very suicidal. At that time, I wasn't necessarily self-harming, but the suicidal part was taken over at that point. Again, never had a plan, never had intent to. It was mostly just passive suicidal. I was just constantly not wanting to be alive. Okay, so after that, I got a job at where I am at currently, and I realized how unhealthy mentally I was. So after I found out how mentally unhealthy I was, I slowly started to like try to fix myself on my own. I wasn't going to therapy. I wasn't going to a psychiatrist. I was basically just trying to like be aware of my own emotions, be aware of my own thoughts and feelings. I tried yoga, I tried meditation, I tried exercise, I tried a lot of coping skills. and none of them really seemed to do the trick personally. A lot of it helped, and a lot of it I still do today because it still does help, but a lot of it was just kind of masking, like putting a band-aid on a broken glass. And that leads me up to April of last year, 2018, when I decided to get help. So when I decided to get help in April of 2018, I was in a very dark place mentally. I was depressed. I wasn't necessarily suicidal, but I definitely was not in a good place. With the amazing support of my coworkers and being referred to by one of the psychiatrists at my work, I was able to see an outpatient psychiatrist. So I was able to see an outpatient psychiatrist, and I fell in love with her. She is so great. I love her so much. I think she does great at her job. I have nothing but praise for her. So that takes me to, sorry, I have all of my information about how much everything cost, what kind of meds she put me on, and all that jazz right here. So I'm going to break down every session I had with her, how much it cost, how much, what meds she put me on, how much I'm on now. Cool. So, like I said, my first appointment with my psychiatrist was in April of 2018. And so that appointment, since it was the first appointment, cost more than all the other appointments, if that makes sense. So that being said, that appointment cost $237. And then after insurance took out their portion or whatever, I paid $197.99. So, and every appointment after that, I was billed $170 and paid $141.93 for all of the other visits. So, that being said, I just want to make a quick little disclaimer, again, that I'm not trying to make this video a huge war or revolution on mental health costs, because I know it's expensive. I work in it, and I know how much a stay for a behavioral health facility costs. I know that it's expensive. We're not going to make it some big argument and political thing for this video. I just want to make it aware. I want people who are wanting to get help, people who have already gotten help, I want to see a comparison, and I want also to encourage others. And I know that sounds strange because I'm telling you how much it costs, and it costs a lot. Hopefully you know what I mean. I'm just wanting to be open and transparent with you guys, and cool. So that is how much each visit cost. Now, granted, since insurance does pay for a portion of it, it does help, although, I mean, $141.93 per visit is quite excessive. It is so worth it. Your mental health is so important. It is just as important, even more important, in my opinion, than physical health. Because without mental health, without a positive mental health, you can't have a physical health. They go hand in hand. So now I'm going to talk about the medications. So for our first appointment, sorry, I need some tea. For my first appointment in April, she started me on a medication called Lexapro. And we started with 10 milligrams, I believe. And then we started a PRN, which means as needed, medication called Visceral, and that was 25 milligrams. So we did that for a month, and psychiatrists have you come back every single month to evaluate med changes, to evaluate how your mental state is now compared to a month ago. So I went in every single month. So for that month, I wasn't necessarily seeing huge symptoms, huge side effects. I did notice like a little bit of drowsiness after I took the first couple doses. Like, it took me about a week to get used to the Lexapro, and the Visceral kind of made me sleepy, but it really just didn't do anything for my anxiety. We used it as needed for like panic attacks. After that month, I went back in May, and then we upped my Lexapro to 15 milligrams and then upped the Visceral to 50 milligrams. So Lexapro is 15, Visceral was 50. So the Visceral was still PRN as needed for panic attacks. The Lexapro was every single day. Again, with the up in the Lexapro, I did notice a little bit of drowsiness for a couple days after taking the higher dose. And then for the Visceral, the 50 milligrams just made me sleepy. It didn't make me any less anxious. So after that, I had to see her again in June. In June, we upped my Lexapro to 20 milligrams per day. And then we switched from Visceral to a medication called gabapentin. And that gabapentin was 300 milligrams as needed, or I think it was 100 milligrams up to 300 milligrams, if that makes sense. So first dose was 100 for panic attacks to see how that worked. If that didn't do anything, an hour later, I could take another 100 to equal 200. And if that didn't work, I could wait an hour and take another 100. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So after trying all of those medications, we waited a month. Again, with the up in Lexapro, it was the same sort of symptoms for a couple days. I was a little bit drowsy. And then for the gabapentin, it actually really helped. I liked the gabapentin. I think it was helpful. So yeah. And then in August, when I met with her again, we kept the Lexapro at 20 milligrams, and then the gabapentin, I was still experiencing some symptoms of anxiety, so we upped it to 300 milligrams for the initial dose, and then I could go up to 600 if needed, if I was still having anxiety, if the panic attack continued, etc. And then that kept me fine for a good couple months, and then I started nursing school and became more stressed, and I was experiencing more symptoms of depression and anxiety. So then I went back to her in November, and in November we upped my Lexapro to 30 milligrams. And again, I just experienced a couple days of feeling a little bit more drowsy, a little bit more out of it than normal, but nothing too severe. And then the gabapentin, we increased one more time. I think we kept it at 600, but I could go up to 800. I can't remember exactly, but I think I just kept taking the 600 because it was working fine for my panic attacks at the time. Cool. And then she wanted to see me in 6 weeks to see how I took it. And that ended up in January of this year, 2019. So that was all of 2018, what I was taking when I went to the psychiatrist, etc. So in the January appointment, we kept my Lexapro at the 30 milligrams, and then we upped my gabapentin from PRN to twice daily, and it was 300 milligrams twice daily. So I have been on that for about a week now, I want to say. Yeah, just about. And I am doing great. I really like that combo. I think the gabapentin every day or twice daily really helps with my everyday anxiety rather than like taking a PRN whenever I was having a panic attack, because it wasn't necessarily helping me when I was already having a panic attack. So I think the twice daily thing is working for me right now. So let's break that all down again. So in total, for all of the appointments with my psychiatrist, I paid $761. And then I didn't calculate how much it was for all of the medications, but I'm sure you could imagine. That was all of that. Now, I wanted to talk about how I'm feeling currently, what my mental state is right now, and how I plan to move forward from here. So, last year I feel like I really took on my depression. I was fighting my depression so hard, and through all of the appointments, all of the therapy that I was doing in between all of those appointments, I was fighting my depression because I thought, silly old me, I thought that that was the main component of all of why I was feeling terrible. I thought that my depression caused my anxiety, and so I was trying to treat just my depression, and ended up fixing my depression sort of, but then increasing my anxiety, because my anxiety, I realized that my anxiety was kind of causing my depression. And so when I had anxiety, I was depressed. And so when I lowered my depression, I upped my anxiety because I noticed it more, if that makes sense. So right now I am just trying to fight my anxiety. And that's where the gabapentin twice daily kind of factors in. And like I was saying earlier, my everyday anxiety has decreased so much since I started taking the gabapentin twice daily, and it's really honestly working for me right now, and I'm so grateful that it is, because wowza, that anxiety was getting bad fast. As I was going through all of my appointments with my psychiatrist, I was also seeing a therapist who is great. I love him. He is awesome. And he really helped me work through a lot of my depression symptoms, a lot of my anxiety symptoms. He gave me so many coping skills, so many resources. I cannot say enough great things about him. And I do every now and then see him. I just don't think I need him as much now as I did in the past. And he agrees, so coolio. So that is my 2018 mental health journey. It's definitely not all of it. If you want me to make a part 2 and you guys have questions about it, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. I'd be happy to make a part 2 of this video, because there is a lot that I can get into. That is pretty much it with this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. Share me with anybody who could possibly be struggling with mental illnesses. Anybody who could possibly be suicidal or self-harming. Share me with anybody who's going through nursing school. Maybe we can all help each other. Comment which video you guys want to see next. Really fast, I just want to make a serious little side note. If you are struggling, or somebody who you know is struggling with suicidality, with anxiety, with depression, with self-harm, with any sort of mental illness, please get help. Tell somebody that you trust, and if you trust them, and if they truly love you, they will help you get help. I'm going to put some of my favorite resources down in the description box below. Please click on them. Please download some of the apps. Please get in touch with your own self and find out what triggers you. Find out ways to avoid those triggers. Find out ways to help yourself. Find out ways to help others. I just want everybody to know that you are worth it, and you deserve to be happy and healthy, whether that's mentally and physically. You deserve it, and you're worth it. I love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Bye.